Today we're going to talk about what you need to set up an emergency dental kit. All right, everybody, welcome back. So I got to thinking about, I've covered a lot of things like food and ways to cook it and bug out bags and all that, but we haven't covered anything as far as medical dental kits. Now, an emergency dental kit is not meant to supplement regular dental visits or using a dentist when times are good. This is for emergency only. And it will really come in handy when you're in a situation where you can't get to a dentist as well. So it could be anything from, say, long-term power outage, like they had in New York when Hurricane Sandy came through, to something as simple as getting a really bad toothache at 11 o'clock at night and there's no dentist to call. So I'm going to go through some items, very basic items, and show you the usefulness of them for an emergency dental kit. Now, of course, you should have more than what I have out here stockpiled away, and I do. Some of this stuff I just grabbed off my shelves. But definitely these are handy items that you're going to want if you have any kind of dental emergency. And I have a little bit of knowledge in this department completely because I spent many summers helping my dad in his dental office. I was his lab tech / assistant / everything over the summer. So I have a little bit of knowledge of some of the things that you can do. I am by no means a dentist, but I can help you through some basic stuff. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to show you each thing one by one. We're going to talk about why we need it and move on to each item. And let's get going. All right, first two items that may not even cost you anything, depending on what you have, are going to be gloves. You really want medical gloves. They're your best choice, but any thin glove would do. You just want to make sure that you're not bringing anything from bacteria from your hands into your mouth in any way. Now, if you don't have medical gloves, and you may have thin dishwashing gloves, you can boil them in a little bit of water. You can clean them off with some kind of solution. Basically, you want a very thin pair of gloves that allow your fingers to move as much as possible. These are very simple to buy. You can buy them in any store that sells medical supplies, and they're very handy. Next basic item that you can make at home, saltwater, saline solution. I keep a couple bottles of this put away for emergencies. It's easy enough to make even if you were in pain in the middle of a dental emergency. But I keep a couple put away just for that reason. Who wants to make it when you're feeling crummy? So really all you need to do is just add a tablespoon of salt to one of these Bell containers here, these canning jars, and you're good to go. So that's the first two items, very simple items. Let's move on to the next one. All right, next up, small mirror. We have one back there. It doesn't have to be that big. It could be one of those little tiny signal mirrors. As long as you can see what's going on in your mouth, that will work. You can use a spoon if you can't find a small enough piece of mirror. This will be needed to get a proper look at the wound. Don't use a mirror. It's broken into smaller pieces. You'll likely end up cutting yourself or your gum and cheek by accident. The next thing is a light source. This is where a big, huge honking light like this isn't the right choice. Because first of all, it'll blind you, and second of all, you really don't need such a big light, and something like this, a little pen light, is a whole lot more maneuverable in your mouth. Okay? It's not your, 2,000 lumen ridiculous brightness, but for inside your mouth, this is perfect. And it's a little more maneuverable than a larger flashlight. You can get it in a corner or something like that. I think I picked this up at Home Depot. I think they're like $11. They're fairly inexpensive. They're made by Coast. So, those are your next two items. Now, of course, these next two items are going to be crossover items that you should have stored anyway. And one would be a toothbrush, of course. They're kind of handy. Sometimes you'll have a cavity on the side of your tooth down under the gum, and something like this can reach under there and maybe pull a piece of food out that's irritating it and allow you to have some peace of mind before you go to the dentist to get it fixed. Or, in a real emergency, before you shove some temporary filling in there to keep the food out. But you should have plenty of these stored in your just normal kit everywhere with toothpaste. The reason I'm just saying a toothbrush for an emergency dental kit is because you're not going to want toothpaste. You're going to use this to remove food particles, broken parts of teeth, whatever. You're going to use this gently to kind of clean the area out. Next item up, alcohol wipes. An upgrade to your saltwater rinse. They come in individual packets like these. You can see they're fairly simple to get. They're in almost every store you can find them in. Most big grocery stores, Walmart, all that have them. No big deal. They're fairly inexpensive. I think they're like 99 cents for this box. And you can use them just on the affected area, which means you're less likely to feel sick from the nasty taste of the alcohol. So if you have a really bad cut or abscess, you can take just a little alcohol pad on the tip of your finger and wipe it down and make sure that you're nice and cleaned out there. So those are two items that are kind of crossover items. You should have lots of this and toothbrush stored away anyway, but we're making this just for your emergency dental kit. So let's move on to the next two items. Next up, floss. Again, you should store lots of this, but for your emergency dental kit, you should have at least one in here. Often sharp hards and bits of food can get stuck impossibly between your teeth, and they're removed a lot easily with floss. Using floss is also safer than anything else with a sharp end. You always want to avoid causing further injury, so sticking your pocket knife in there when you got something stuck between your teeth is not a bright idea. Okay? Next up, cotton balls. They're awesome. They should be in every medical kit and dental kit. Versatile part of your emergency dental kit. They can plug bleeding caused by a knocked out tooth. They can be soaked in pain relief and applied directly to the exposed root, or provide a barrier between a broken tooth edge and the inside of your cheek. Definitely a worthy addition in your kit. And I'm going to also add Q-tips, and we'll get into why in a little bit. I'll just say that they're great for as applicators. You can put numbing solution on these, and they work very well. They also can get in and soak up blood from smaller areas. So let's move on to the next item. Now, the next item up is some kind of over-the-counter pain relief for any kind of dental pain. So you've got your Tylenol Extra Strength here. If you can't take acetaminophen, aspirin upsets your stomach, you always have ibuprofen. You can use Aleve, anything like that over the counter. It will definitely take the edge off some bad dental pain. I mean, dental pain can be debilitating. And this is why this stuff's so important. Because I've had pain, where from a wisdom tooth that literally made me not want to do anything. All you can think about is that throbbing and that pain, and you don't want to get up, you don't want to move, you just want to sit there until it gets better. That's why having this stuff in an emergency is very important, because you may not have the luxury of being able to sit in your bed and wallow in pain for a day. They work very, very well. They're very inexpensive. You should, of course, a crossover item, you should, of course, have this kind of stuff stocked in your medical kit. But if you're making a separate emergency dental kit, this stuff is very, very important. Any kind of over-the-counter pain reliever works. So let's move on to the next one. And the next one's something I remembered from a long time ago. I believe my dad was talking to another dentist when I was very, very young and getting braces put on. And they mentioned using Vaseline or petroleum jelly for keeping teeth in stasis, like a cap or a tooth falls out. If you're lucky enough to be able to get the tooth reinserted, which is very, very rare, you can store the tooth in this. If you have, say, a cap, or if you have a filling that's fallen out, whatever, you can use this to cover the cap area in your mouth and put it on the cap to preserve it so it'll be nice and fresh for when the dentist cleans it up and puts it back on. Or you can use this as a temporary filling. It also helps to coat the gum line a little bit and pack up any kind of nerve roots or empty fillings. So definitely a handy item, definitely something you wouldn't have thought of, but I remember, it's funny the little things you remember, and I was putting this together and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So that's definitely something that's handy. And petroleum jelly, whatever, Vaseline, it's all pretty much the same thing. So let's move on to the next two items. Now, the next item, this is kind of a very large roll of it, but it's definitely handy. Gauze, and you can cut this down to the right size. Again, handy for plugging areas where you've got heavy bleeding going on. Handy to plug up any kind of open area that's bleeding out. Very handy as a dual-use item for gripping and holding the tongue, as well as putting it in an area where there's heavy bleeding. You can pack an area with gauze. Say you just lost a tooth, okay? Fell out from decay, whatever. It's the middle of an emergency, you're bleeding there, and you want to stop the bleeding. Well, cotton balls work pretty well, but gauze soaks up the blood far better, and you can pack it in there. You can also use it to hold your tongue when you're trying to get to an area. If you just put a little bit between your fingers and hold your tongue when you're trying to get into another area and your tongue naturally wants to move to that area. So it's definitely a cool way to use that item without reintroducing more bacteria into your mouth, because it's sterile. You probably want to get a little bit smaller one. Again, this was just one I grabbed off my shelf. You probably want to get the little small ones, like half that size. They work pretty well. Now, here's another one. This is, I like to refer to this as the smell of my summer childhood, because I worked for my dad in the summers when he had me working there as a summer job when I was younger. This is clove oil. You'll commonly see it referred to as eugenol. It has a very distinct smell, but this stuff is gold in a dental emergency. It tastes disgusting, okay? But let me tell you something. You got a throbbing toothache, and again, that's why I mentioned these Q-tips. You dip a Q-tip in it, you stick that where the toothache is, and within minutes, it will take away the pain. It's also an antiseptic too. So you got to be careful with it. It's a very good antiseptic, but it can burn if you use it too much. It can burn the skin. But man, I'll tell you, this has gotten me through some nasty dental pain before I could get to a dentist. And I always seem to be the person that gets dental pain at 11:45 at night. The wisdom tooth decides to just start hurting like crazy, or a bad cavity I didn't know about opens up, and it just never fails. So you can find this, if you notice I'm showing you up close that little red cross on it. You can find this, I found this in Walgreens, CVS, occasionally Walmart, but not very often. Very, very good stuff. And I'll tell you, this stuff is gold. Anybody that's used it, you know what I mean. Your mouth will taste disgusting for about 20 minutes, but it will knock the pain out. And it's easy enough to reapply. Like I said, you just got to be careful that you don't get it on your gums too much and everything, because it can kind of, after overuse, burn a little bit. But this stuff is gold. And it's rather inexpensive. I think the emergency, it comes in a blister pack similar to this temporary dental filling, which we'll get to in a minute. And it comes with little plugs for, a cavity and a little device to push it down in. You really don't need any of that. I think they're about $6 or $7. Just get a tube of this stuff. The tube of this stuff will last you a good long time. I have several of these put away in my dental kit. They definitely work well. Very distinctive smell, like I said. And if you walk up to somebody, they'll smell you from like 10 feet away. But I'll tell you, it works wonders. So definitely check out clove oil. All right, let's move on to the next items. All right, now, this is another crossover item. These should be in your medical kit as well. But definitely, if you have a separate emergency dental kit, put them in there. Instant cold compresses. You know these. You take them out. They're a clear plastic bag. You pop it, and it gets cold. Chemical reaction inside makes it get cold. But those are better for, when you really need to get down swelling, get down any kind of bruising. Definitely work very well for that. Next up, topical anesthetic. Usually will involve some kind of cane, all right? Not what you're thinking, so get that out of your head. Benzocaine, stuff like that. This is this stuff here. I'm going to open it up so you can see it, because I'm going to store it without the packaging. Another handy tip for your medical kits. Get rid of old cardboard and just store the item. Usually they'll be stamped with an expiration date on it. This is, let me see if I can find it. Oh, sure, you're going to be difficult and not show me what it is now. Benzocaine. This stuff works very well. It doesn't work as well as clove oil, but for, let's say, a young child with teething problems, this is far more palatable and will do the job. And in some cases of minor dental pain, let's say you just have a cut, somehow you got a cut in your mouth from something, this works very well. When you don't need the eugenol or the clove oil, this will work perfectly. So that's why I mentioned any kind of, if you're lucky enough to be able to get Novocaine, hey, more power to you. But usually what they'll sell is benzocaine in these little tubes. Works good, definitely worth keeping it around. So let's move on to the next items. All right, next up, 3% hydrogen peroxide. An awesome antiseptic and a big step up from saltwater. Now you got to be careful with this because it is a debriding solution. You can really, if you abuse it, you can mess up raw areas in your mouth. However, taking a little bit of this and swishing it around in your mouth without swallowing, just swishing it around as a mouthwash where you have a bleeding or an infection, will really, really help keep the area clean. You can dip it in cotton balls and push it against an injury inside your mouth. Definitely handy to have. Make sure you do a little reading up on it, because there's a lot of controversy now with using it on cuts because they say it could damage the cut worse than, just having it open and bleeding. I guess because it can eat away at the skin to some extent. But it's definitely something you should have. And again, you should have this in your medical kits as well. But again, if you're building just a dental kit, and that's kind of how I have my stuff done. I have a medical kit in one section, a portable medical kit, a dental kit, a female hygiene kit. I have these kits kind of laid out on my shelf, on my rack. So if I need one thing, I've got a raging toothache. I don't have to go into my medical kit, pull this out, go into my, pills kit and pull this out. And this is over here on this, it's all there ready to go. So it's definitely handy to have. Next up, dental wax. You will notice this is almost empty. There's just one little piece of dental wax in there. My wife used this extensively before she got implants. She had bad teeth, and I'm not, my teeth aren't perfect either. Son of a dentist, and my teeth aren't perfect either. And I took fairly good care of them. It's just, as you get older, stuff breaks, stuff can be sharp. If you have a broken tooth, okay, there is nothing more annoying than it digging into your cheek all day or into your gum line. This dental wax is primarily, I remember it from when I was a kid and had braces, primarily it's kind of a heat activated kind of thing. You'll take a small piece and always take smaller than you think you need. That's another thing from going up with a dentist. You may think I got this huge hole in my tooth and you take that much, and you really only need maybe that much. That's one thing about your mouth. Everything seems bigger than it really is. So you'll take that small piece, you'll move it around in your fingers and smush it. It'll get very, very soft. And then you're able to kind of mold it in there. And the relief from, if you've ever had a cracked tooth and it rubbing against your cheek and making like a scratch there and then an abscess and then it's bleeding. And the relief from this is amazing. It's almost as good as painkiller. Again, this can be picked up at any kind of Walgreens, CVS. This is usually the container it comes in. I got these from my orthodontist years and years and years ago when you'd get braces and they put a new hook for the rubber bands on it, and you'd use that to kind of cover the area so it didn't scratch against your gum line. Definitely something handy. Let's move on to the next two items. Now these items kind of go hand in hand, and this is maybe a little bit more advanced than some people feel comfortable doing. But in a real dental emergency, where it may be months before you're going to be able to see a dentist, think about middle of America where there's hurricanes and floods and your house is, knocked down or whatever, or the whole town is destroyed, maybe your house got spared. You got a broken cap, all right? Front tooth maybe fell off with the cap, and you have the post there. And you need to put that back on because it's going to be a long time. And as I said, this is not a replacement for regular dental treatment. This is emergency only. So you can buy these crowns on Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive, $5-6. You can trim them down with any kind of rotary tool, and you can use this stuff here, denture repair kit, which is also good if you wear dentures because you can fix cracked dentures and broken teeth in your dentures. You can use this stuff here to temporarily put that temporary tooth over your post there. Not telling you to do this to save money. Go to a dentist and get it done right if it's normal times. But if you don't have a dentist around, or it's a long-term type of emergency, this will hold up for a good long time too. But it is easy enough to break when the dentist goes in there and fixes it for real. You don't want to be using anything like crazy glue or anything nuts like that. Just use some kind of, you can also buy some kind of zinc cement too that's possible to use, and it's actually proper dental cement. You can buy that on Amazon as well, but you don't want to be using anything that's going to be permanent or cause gum damage or irritation. And this is actually made for teeth. Also too, if you have dentures and you lose a tooth or your dentures crack in an emergency, this is an awesome kit for temporarily fixing it. Most of the time it can be peeled right off and the dentist can either repair the denture or make you a new one. No big deal. Real easy, simple to do. So those are kind of advanced items. And again, if you're not comfortable doing that stuff, that's fine. I get it. Just letting you know it's out there. And heck, I know some people that have used this stuff for real, but it's not a replacement for regular dental checkups and maintenance. Let's move on to the next two items. Now, one item I can't show you here because it's on CD and it wouldn't do much good to say, oh, look, here's a CD. But if you can find the book, it's good too. It's a book called Where There Is No Dentist. It's along the lines of Where There Is No Doctor. You can pick it up anywhere. Very handy to have. You can download it for free. I mean, that's how I got mine. And I burned it to a CD. You can put it on a thumb drive, whatever. Definitely handy stuff to know. Again, we're talking in the worst extreme here. We're not talking regular dental checkups. Just like I wouldn't tell you to perform, surgery on yourself unless it was a dire emergency and you were going to die. You don't do this kind of stuff on yourself unless it's an emergency. Now, if you got a toothache, putting some of this on it, no big deal. However, if you have a big bleeding abscess and serious pain and you don't want to do that for long term. You want to get to a dentist and have them take care of it. Okay, next tool. Now these can be found almost anywhere. Believe it or not, I buy mine at gun shows because we have a person there that sells them because they're great for cleaning guns. Dental tools. And they even sell the ones like this with the little mirror on the end too. I can't find mine at the moment. I think it's in my other medical kit, my other emergency dental kit. But they're very, very handy. Definitely worthwhile. So you can pick them up. They're fairly cheap. You can pick them up on Amazon, or you can pick them up at, like I said, gun shows. Sometimes sellers will have tables full of these weird little devices. These are awesome. Now you got to be careful. Again, these are awesome for getting stuff that's stuck in cavities. If you are going to fill up a cavity with some kind of temporary cavity filling, you definitely want to have something like this that can reach in there and take care of the problem. And this stuff is awesome too. This is temporary repair kit for your cavities, caps, and fillings. You can also use this to keep caps on, but it doesn't work well chewing. It'll come right off. But while it's great to have, you want to get all the food out of there first. That's where I always recommend a Waterpik. Now you're going to need a way to power that. So hopefully you got your alternative energy stuff figured out. But a Waterpik is also a handy thing to have for everyday dental care, as well as just for your everyday use, as well as emergency. If you ever think you don't need a Waterpik, brush your teeth as good as you can. Brush them really, really well. Then get a Waterpik out and use it and watch what's in the sink. You will not believe the amount of food that a Waterpik can get. And as you get older, if you have problems with your teeth, if there's spaces, if they moved a little bit, you even need it more. It's also very therapeutic for your gums. It can help prevent periodontal disease, and it's definitely a handy item. So those are the items I feel that are most important for an emergency dental kit. They're fairly easy to get, and I mean, some of these items you can just buy this afternoon at Walmart. I mean, they're not really hard to get. You may have trouble getting these right away, but most of the stuff you can just pick up. And as I said, there's a lot of crossover items here. You should have pain relievers in your medical kit. If you don't choose to put everything in separate kits, that's fine too, but definitely handy stuff to have. I think the cops are coming for me. Can't hear it. There's a siren out there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. I will put a link down below to my Amazon store. Don't forget to check that out. If there's anything in store you like, go ahead and buy it. If not, just shop as you normally would on Amazon. It really helps out the channel. Don't forget to check out our Thrive Life freeze-dried store. We've got everything you could possibly need for freeze-dried food storage there, folks. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay prepared.